Hello, this is Aaron from My Dying Bride, saying hello to all our friends and family down in Brazil. I've been given some questions which I'm going to answer here for your delight, I hope, and I trust you're all having a lovely time at the HorrorCon. I wish I was there, perhaps another time. Okay, I have been asked, have you ever been inspired or influenced by a horror film, book, or overall horror atmosphere on your music? One of the, I think, better horror films from the past was The Shining. It's not, I suppose, a traditional horror film. It's not very bloodthirsty, apart from, well, one scene. But it's a mind trick horror. And I much prefer that to the sort of machete axe style horror. Because you can run away from an axe-wielding madman, but you can't run away from mind tricks. Even when you close your eyes at night time, you go to sleep, you can be terrified. And I think The Shining is one of those films, it never lets up. It's hard work and it's quite painful to watch. And it's a classic horror in my books. One of my favourites, and it did inspire me to some degree to write music and tell stories that aren't in your face slasher or hacking and not brutally right there all the time, but just gently playing tricks on your mind, slowly working its way right in here to torment you for days and days afterwards. That's real horror. We have a new EP called Macabre Cabaret. The artwork is beautiful for this EP, and the main piece features a female totem with stag horns, and right in the middle of the deer skull is a keyhole, which is a kind of reference to accessing the mind and personality of another human being, because the physical side of things is great. We all have a bit of physical side when it comes to a relationship, but it's getting right in here again. It's mind tricks. If you can fully understand somebody, then you become a true partnership like this. Do you know what I mean? And that is what the cover of Macabre Cabaret really represents. And it has, of course, it's pagan. It has pagan overtones all over it. You can see that quite easily. Really, I should have an example of the cover to show you, but I don't. But sorry for that. I'm sure someone else can insert a picture of the cover there. Anyway, it's beautiful. It is pagan. It's quite scary, but it's meaningful. Number 3, we have last month you released A Secret Kiss. We did indeed, a first single from Macabre Cabaret. A Secret Kiss is, the way I wrote it, it's your final goodbye to somebody. It's the last kiss. It's the termination of something beautiful. You know that something is ending, and you just give it that one final sensitive moment before it all fades away. And I only learnt after the occasion, if you check online about Secret Kiss, it is something that witches perform in their covenant, where they, when apparently to show pure dedication to the art and the occult, you must lift the tail of the devil and kiss his ass. That apparently is a secret kiss. So that's not what I was thinking when I wrote it, but you know, that is what it is apparently. Number 4, together with A Secret Kiss, Macabre Cabaret presents 2 other new songs, A Purse of Gold and Stars, and Macabre Cabaret. Macabre Cabaret is my outlook on the relationships between people and how they sometimes are beautiful and how sometimes they're dark but still continue even though both people aren't necessarily happy. But I've written them in such a flamboyant style that you might not easily recognise what that content is. You need to read between the lines to fully understand what I'm talking about. And that's how I've written lyrics for many years, you know. If I have something to say, instead of just saying it like a normal person, I'd much prefer to write about it in a more poetic style, just to give it something more, something better than just, we just don't love each other anymore. Anyway, and a purse of golden stars. Is that, the purse I think is more of a reference to your heart, and the gold and the stars are those pretty things in life which we don't come across them very often. So when we do, we really hold on to them and we pull them deep into our heart, and we never want to let them go because they are treasure for us. And they are so few and far between. When we do get them, we are amazed by their shine and we take them in, and we never want to let them ever go again. Even if that may be having a negative effect. So anyway, so quite a dark EP, as you would expect from My Dying Bride. We have another question here. The Ghost of Orion was released in March when the pandemic was in the early stages of spreading. How has the band been during the experience? Not too bad. My Dying Bride have survived lockdowns because we went through a period a few years ago where we didn't play live anyway. We didn't play live in 2018. We didn't play live in 2019. We're not playing live in 2020. So there's no change for us. We're still not playing live. Hopefully in 2021, if the pandemic can be controlled better and perhaps a vaccine, then we will get back on the road and perform live. But by the time we go back on stage, it'll be 3.5 years before we've performed live. So a long time for us. And we wrote the album and released it in March before the pandemic. So record sales don't seem to have been affected a great deal. And lockdown for us has been easy. I know it's been tough for a lot of people. And I hear all the other bands, you know, bands who play 150, 200 shows a year, they're really struggling now, and we feel sorry for these guys. But even when My Dying Bride did play live, we would only do maybe 15, 18, 20 shows a year, which is nothing really. So we don't rely on live music to keep us going, but a lot of other bands do, and we really feel for those guys. Number 6, have you ever performed in a thematic horror festival? We haven't, but we have played a lot of gothic festivals where there are some quite interesting other bands on stage doing quite theatrical horror type shows. We've played in Mera Luna and Wave Gothic in Germany, and some people look at My Dying Bride and think we're kind of a dark, intense band. When you go to some of these even more intense gothic festivals, there are bands who are even more flamboyant than we are, who present not just music, but a whole live performance. You know, it's highly visual. And there's all kinds of stage props and things going on. And though we've never actually played a horror fest, a lot of these goth festivals incorporate lots of tones of horror anyway. So we've been in the same environment and thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, it's really eye-opening. And I hope we can do some more in the future. What do we got? Number 7. Do you think My Dying Bride inspired Tim Burton for Corpse Bride? Of course we did. Tim loves My Dying Bride, and we love Tim. Yeah, I know. Excuse me. There's a fan-made video of Tim Burton's Vincent and our cover version of the Portishead song Roads. It's beautiful, and of course, you know, if we could get hold of Tim to do one of our videos, that would be amazing. I'd like to think he's aware of My Dying Bride because he seems to dwell in the dark gothic side of things. very artistic in that way. So he must have come across My Dying Bride at some point. So yeah, I think if we helped create the film Corpse Bride, that works for me. We love you, Tim. Where are we now? Which My Dying Bride song would you recommend to horror fans? Interesting question, because I like the psychological horror, and I do also like the full-on in-your-face splatter horror as well. But for me, I think it would be The Raven and the Rose, which is actually based on a Nick Cave book called And the Ass Saw the Angel. And it's very dark and tormented, and it's about how this young boy who's not quite right in his head, he really fantasizes about this beautiful woman and who he can never have. So his way of coping with that is very twisted behavior. He wants something he definitely cannot have, and so his mind goes nuts. He goes nuts because he can't live. He can't live without her, so he must do everything he can to obtain her. And it's dark and it's tormented. And so I think our song, The Raven and the Rose, would fit perfectly. Top 5 horror movies. Wow. I have had to do a bit of research into this because there are many. I've gone for number 5. I've gone for The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Very, very old film now, but visually stunning. It was in the early part of filmmaking, and to create a film so visually affecting as that 100 years ago, it's amazing. It must have blown people's minds when it first came out and absolutely terrified people, because it's still a wonderful movie to watch today. Absolutely brilliant. And then I've gone sort of the other way. Dawn of the Dead, classic zombie horror. George A. Romero, of course. And who doesn't want to hold up in a shopping mall with guns and stuff? It's just great viewing. Most of his films are, and it's just, for me, it's a classic. I saw it when I was a kid. Probably shouldn't have done, but absolutely loved it. For number 3, I've gone for The Thing. Again, the special effects. The first time I saw some of those special effects, I was almost sick. That's how effective they were. It's an intense horror because no one can escape from the horror. They're stuck in the Arctic or the Antarctic, I'm not sure which one. But they can't go anywhere. They are stuck there with this creature and there's nothing they can do about it. And that in itself is terrifying. But when the blood and guts start spraying, oof, I was quite poorly as a child watching that. And my second favourite film would be The Exorcist. Again, it's quite graphic in places, but again, it's very mental. It's a very mental film. It's tormenting, and it really plays on the mind again. And I like that. And I also like it when religion and horror clash, because religion is supposed to be very peaceful and mindful, and horror is supposed to be the opposite. But actually, they work together really well. And I think we are all aware that religious can be quite brutal and bloodthirsty as well. And again, the music, the acting, Max von Sydow, I think was amazing. And I think it was classed as a video nasty back in the day when it was released. It was so horrific. The church went nuts, of course. And a lot of other people did. But I think it was banned in some countries. But for the most part, it was widely viewed as being possibly one of the greatest horror films of all time. But for me, that accolade lies with The Omen. Partly because I was underage when I saw The Omen. I must have been about 10 years old. So to see a film like that, it was just, it was intense. It was really intense. Again, the music was amazing, of course. The acting was fantastic. The way everybody died in it was truly horrifying. And when you're a child watching something like that, I know it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It was just it was mind-blowing, you know. The Omen, you watch it now, not quite so scary. When you're a child and you're watching a film like that, it's just staggering. The way it's been put together. And Omen 2 as well, or equally as good, I think. But for me, The Omen, and I haven't seen The Omen for many years now, because I might laugh at some of the special effects. It won't be as good, I think, or it won't be as visually impacting as a lot of films are today. But for its time, it was absolutely stunning and amazing. And I'll never forget The Omen. For me, the greatest horror film of all time. So that's me. Thank you to all of you down there in South America. We'll try and return as soon as possible. And I hope that's not too far away, to be honest. Maybe 2021. If we can't do that, 2022, we'll come down and we'll perform some of the songs for you. You guys were brilliant last time. And stay safe, everybody. Have fun at the Expo. All the best. Look after yourself. Love you all tremendously. Aaron from My Dying Bride. With my cat. With my doll. Au revoir.